Esther before the king. 1. The Persian Empire, power and shadows. The palace of Susa, capital of the Persian Empire, glittered under the sun, a marvel of ancient architecture. Ivory pillars wrapped in gold leaf, fountains carved with lions, gardens heavy with jasmine and pomegranate. It was here, amidst silken robes and polished marble, that King Xerxes ruled over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. But behind the glitz, tension stirred. Laws unchangeable as stone, enemies hidden beneath layers of protocol. And in this empire, God's people lived as exiles, uncertain, scattered, vulnerable. No one expected deliverance to rise from within the palace walls. 2. The rise of Esther, a hidden entity. Her name was Hadassah, but in Persia she was called Esther, a young Jewish woman raised by her cousin Mordecai after the death of her parents. She lived in obscurity until one day the queen was dismissed and the search began for a new royal bride. Women from across the empire were brought into the king's harem, each prepared for months before a single night before the king. Esther's beauty was undeniable, but it was her humility and grace that captivated all who met her. She was chosen, crowned, beloved, a Jewish girl, now queen of Persia, and yet her identity was hidden. 3. A dark plot unfolds. Enter Haman, high-ranking official, proud, cruel, obsessed with honor. When Mordecai refused to bow before him at the gate, Haman's pride twisted into hatred, not just for Mordecai, but for all Jews. He devised a plan. Total annihilation. Using lies and bribes, he convinced Xerxes to sign an irreversible edict. On a certain day, all Jews in the empire would be slaughtered. The decree spread like wildfire. Panic gripped the Jewish people. Mordecai tore his robes and covered himself in ashes. Then he sent word to Esther, begging her to go before the king and plead for their lives. 4. The moment of decision. But Esther knew the law. Anyone who approached the king uninvited could be killed unless he extended his golden scepter. She hadn't seen the king in 30 days. Fear whispered, "You could die." Then Mordecai sent her these immortal words. "Do not think that because you are in the king's house you alone of all the Jews will escape. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place. But who knows if you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" The words echoed in her soul. Destiny stirred. She replied, "Go, gather all the Jews, fast for me. I and my maids will fast also. Then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." 5. Before the throne, a deadly walk. 3 days passed. The city watched. The court whispered. The sun rose, and Esther clothed herself in royal robes, dignified, resolute. She stepped into the inner court of the palace. Each step was weighted with risk. The king sat on his throne, facing the entrance. All eyes turned. Would she be condemned? Xerxes looked up, and his heart softened. Grace flooded his face. Slowly he raised the golden scepter. She was safe, alive, and welcomed. "What is your request, Queen Esther?" he asked. "Even up to half the kingdom it will be given you." 6. The trap set, wisdom and patience. Esther didn't beg immediately. Instead, she invited Xerxes and Haman to a banquet, then another. Behind the meals, tension thickened like incense. Finally, at the second banquet, the moment came. Esther stood, voice steady. "If I have found favor with King, grant me my life, and spare my people, for we have been sold for destruction and slaughter." Xerxes was stunned. Who is he? Where is a man who dared do such a thing? She turned. An adversary and enemy, this vile Haman. The color drained from Haman's face. The room exploded in fury. Xerxes stormed out. Haman fell to beg for his life on Esther's couch. The king re-entered, saw the scene, and his wrath was sealed. 7. Divine reversal. Justice delivered. Haman was executed on the very gallows he built for Mordecai, his estate given to Esther. Mordecai was promoted and clothed in royal garments, but the decree still stood, unhonorable by Persian law. So Esther, again risking her life, approached the king. A new edict was written. The Jews could defend themselves. On the day destruction was planned, they fought and triumphed. A day of doom became a day of deliverance. Mourning turned to joy. And the Feast of Purim was born, a celebration of God's hidden hand, working through courage, timing, and faith. 8. Legacy and reflection. Esther's name never mentions God, yet his fingerprints are on every page of her story. A young woman, orphaned and exiled, became a queen who saved a nation, not with sword or storm, but with bravery, wisdom, and divine timing. You may never stand before a throne, but you do stand in the gap for others. You may feel hidden, outmatched, or afraid, but who knows? Perhaps you too have come to your moment for such a time.